This episode of Let's Talk Drones is more drone adjacent than it is drone specific. If you read the title of this video or you looked at the thumbnail, then it's no mystery what we're talking about. We're talking about the DJI Osmo Action 5. And actually, we're not talking about that. We're talking about the DJI Osmo Action 5 versus the Osmo Action 4. And actually, really, we're not even talking about that. We're talking about a more general idea of releasing new action cameras every single year with marginal upgrades at best. Not sure what I'm talking about? You will in just a few minutes. So without further ado, let's talk drones. Kinda. What's up? It's Chris, the Drone Geek, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Drones. Let's Talk Drones is brought to you by The Droning Company. Check them out online at thedroningcompany.com and across all major social media platforms. Make sure you get subscribed to their YouTube channel as well. Tons of great content there, as well as content from myself and friend of the channel, Sam Karp, as well as friend of the channel, Tim Brazel. Check them out on YouTube by searching The Droning Company, across all major social media platforms and at thedroningcompany.com. Now, when the DJI Osmo Action 5 hit shelves, I had a lot of questions that came into my inbox about whether or not I'd be doing review content on the Osmo Action 5. And while I haven't ruled that out yet, I just recently purchased the Osmo Action 4, and this is a really solid little action camera. In fact, the DJI action camera series converted me from GoPro. Not that GoPro's bad, I've said that in the past on other review videos talking about the Osmo Action 4. GoPro's great, but DJI fits better into my workflow. And I found that out very quickly when I switched over to the Osmo Action 4. This was just an experiment when I bought it, and the rest is history. Now I am using the Osmo Action series for all of my action camera needs. So long story short, if I do a review on the Osmo Action 5, it means one of two things. It means either A, I came into a huge financial windfall and I have the extra spending money to spend on a new action camera, despite the fact I already have one, or it means I waited a while and you won't see those reviews from me for quite some time. And there's a reason for that. And I'm not just picking on DJI here. I want to be very clear. This is a symptom of a problem in the entire action camera market. I'm talking GoPro, I'm talking Insta360, I'm talking DJI. All of these companies are in this weird rat race to release a new iteration of their action cameras seemingly year over year over year. And I'm really growing quite tired of it. In fact, I'm pretty jaded at this point, and when there is an announcement about a new action camera that's supposed to be hitting shelves, I don't get excited about it anymore because there's just not enough of a tangible upgrade from camera model to camera model for me to go, yeah, I'm gonna go out and spend another $400 or $500 on a new action camera. It's just not enticing enough, and the upgrades that we're seeing because of these more regular releases just don't get me very excited. Don't believe me? Let's take a look at a comparison between the DJI Osmo Action 5 and this guy right here, the DJI Osmo Action 4, released just last year. Now, looking at this table that I most definitely did not quickly throw together in a Microsoft Word document and then screen capture to share with you now, you'll see I've got two different columns. I've got the Osmo Action 5 and the Osmo Action 4, and underneath those two headings, I've got specs for each camera. Now, these aren't the only specs that matter. There are some specs I left off of here, but these are the specs to me that matter most when you're upgrading from an older action camera to a newer action camera. So please, as you are listening to this and watching this, understand that I didn't do a complete deep dive into the differences between these two cameras, and it's because the categories that matter most to most of us didn't see a tangible enough change from the Osmo Action 4 to the Osmo Action 5. When we look at the ISO range between these two cameras, you do see there is a bump for the Osmo Action 5. The effective range for photography for the ISO is 100 to 25,600, and for video is 100 to 51,200, whereas the Osmo Action 4 was only capable of 100 to 12,800 in both photo and video. So there is a step up here in the ISO range for the Osmo Action 5, but don't get too excited. There's a reason that this particular row is highlighted in yellow. It's because this isn't really necessarily a positive net gain from the Osmo Action 4 to the Osmo Action 5. That still leaves a lot of room, especially for smaller sensors that you find in action cameras, for noise. Yeah, it's great that we can get up to 25,000 and 51,000 ISO respectively on the Osmo Action 5, but what does the noise look like at those levels? That's the question that I have. I can tell you it's probably not great. Most of the time, these smaller camera formats, whether it's a drone or an action camera, really top out in terms of what you should be bumping the ISO up to around 1600. And even 1600 is a little noisy for some people. For me, I can make it work. Really, it's between 800 and 1600 ISO before you start to notice really harsh noise in your photos and videos. So until we see more data that shows that this ISO range is actually effective and does provide more flexibility in low light situations, this is sort of a non-factor. It's sort of a nothing burger, if you will. Moving on to photo resolution, this is the first place that I noticed a significant bump up. You go from a photo resolution, a maximum photo resolution of 4,000 by 2,256 in the Osmo Action 4 to 7,296 by 5,472. So much larger photos coming out of the Action 5 in terms of total resolution. However, again, even though this is highlighted in green, I do challenge you to think, how often do you take photos with your action camera? Now, I'm not saying nobody does it. In fact, I'm sure there's probably a section of the folks that purchase these action cameras that use them for photos a lot. But for somebody like me, a multimedia creator, it's few and far between when I actually use my action camera like the Osmo Action 4 or a GoPro or whatever the case may be for photography. I've got a cell phone for that if I need a quick photo, and if I need something that's a little bit more well laid out and well exposed, I'm going to turn to a photography camera before I'd ever whip out my action camera. So things to keep in mind there. It's great that we see a big step up in total photo resolution with the Osmo Action 5, but how often are you actually going to use it to shoot photos? My guess would be less often than they lead you to believe. Next, video resolution, where there was almost no change from the Osmo Action 4 to the Osmo Action 5. And this is a problem for me. I did highlight it in yellow because there is an upgrade in the capable frame rates at this resolution. So in 4K, which is 3840 by 2880 and 4.3, you can shoot at 120 frames per second in 4K with the Osmo Action 5, whereas with the Osmo Action 4, you can only shoot in 60 frames per second. So that does offer you a little bit more flexibility when it comes to speed ramping your action camera footage, but overall, not seeing an upgrade in video resolution is a problem, especially since we didn't see an upgrade in the sensor size. The sensor size for both cameras is 1/1.3 inches. A solid sensor size for an action camera at this point in the game, but a lot of us would really like to see that 1-inch sensor hit either the DJI Osmo Action series or the GoPro Hero series, or both. I mean, it'd be great if both of them did it, but they're really leaving a lot of room here for improvement at some point down the line. It's just hard to know when they're going to do it and either upgrade that video resolution to something like 5.3K or just go ahead and give us the 1-inch sensor on the Osmo Action series. Next up is video bitrate, where we actually took a step backwards with the Osmo Action 5. The total video bitrate for the Osmo Action 4 was 130 megabits per second, whereas with the Osmo Action 5, it's just 100 megabits per second. Now, I'm not camera savvy enough to really make sense of this for you. There's probably a reason why, and maybe a good reason, maybe not. But this is a little bit confusing for me, why we would take a step back and make that bitrate speed slower in the Osmo Action 5. If I had to guess, it probably has something to do with the new sensor technology DJI has been using in its drones and its action cameras, that stacked sensor technology. We're going to see that in the Osmo Action 5, and that's something we want to pay attention to, is the performance and the enhancement in the performance from that stacked sensor technology. Now, one place that I did see a tangible increase in performance from the Osmo Action 4 to the Osmo Action 5, at least on paper, is in battery life. This is where I'm going to tip my hat to DJI because they actually did something really cool. The Osmo Action 4's total battery life is 160 minutes, or that's roughly 2 hours and 40 minutes. The battery life on the Osmo Action 5 is 240 minutes, which is 4 hours. So that's 4 hours of battery life for the Osmo Action 5, as opposed to 2 hours and 40 minutes on the Osmo Action 4. A huge step up in this category, and this is one place that I go, okay, you know what? You did something here. Proud of you. Keep it going. Are you still with me? Good. because now we're starting the rant section. Now, I'm going to keep this rant somewhat brief for a couple of reasons. First of all, if rants go too long, they can become very tiresome to listen to. So I'm going to spare you that, but also because this isn't drone technology, and I'm the Drone Geek, and this is Let's Talk Drones. So if it's not directly related to actual drone technology, it's not something we want to dwell on too long. Now, I do recognize that this is important to a lot of you because as content creators, as photo and video enthusiasts, and drone enthusiasts, action cameras do play a part in what we do day after day, our hobbies, our professions, whatever the case may be. And I want to share with you my perspective after seeing about 4 years now in a row of just totally flat releases from the action camera market as a whole. I'm completely jaded by the over-releasing of new action cameras by each company. And I'm not picking on DJI again specifically, I'm just using them as an example to portray this symptom that we're seeing that is a result of a lack of creativity and a lack of ingenuity in the action camera market, in my opinion. Even DJI is falling victim to this, but they're certainly not the only offenders. GoPro has been doing it for much longer than DJI has in terms of falling short on their promises with their action cameras, or maybe not promises, but their upgrades from one platform to another. And Insta360, well, they've just kind of been third place right along. So all that said, this is my message to consumers and the action camera market as a whole, the OEMs that provide action cameras to consumers. Don't feel like you need to buy a new action camera every time one comes out. If you look at the specs from model to model to model across all of the different companies that create action cameras, the new releases year over year have very, very minor upgrades. They're not worth the $400 to $500 that it costs to invest in this equipment and in this technology. Now, some action camera providers are doing you a huge favor by making parts like batteries and accessories for mounting and for recording interchangeable between the camera models. So if you have a GoPro, most of the accessories you have and some of the batteries from model to model will fit the newer models of action cameras. So they are saving you a bit of money that way. But overall, this is just them trying to leech money off of the consumer market by giving very minute upgrades to each new camera while charging you a premium price every time a new one releases. Keep that in mind as you're shopping. And as for the message to the OEMs, the manufacturers of these action cameras, slow it down. We don't need a new action camera from you every single year. GoPro, it's been years. Just please give us what we've been asking for. We've been asking for a 1-inch sensor in a GoPro for years. We've been asking for you to fix the overheating issues that we find time and again in your new action cameras. And for God's sakes, please fix the battery life because it is abysmal overall. And looking back at our example for this video, DJI, don't feel like you have to fall into the same pattern that GoPro does. We love your camera equipment. You do a fantastic job on your drones and now your action cameras. We don't need you to come out with a new Osmo Action every single year, unless you're going to bring significant, substantial upgrades to that new Osmo Action. But if you're just going to do what GoPro does and what Insta360 does, please spare us. Focus on a different camera platform. Maybe something that's closer to like a Sony Alpha series or a Canon Rebel series, something a little bit larger format that we can sink our teeth into and integrate into our workflows more easily. Or heck, I don't know, maybe release a new Phantom? I'm kidding. I know that they're never going to release another Phantom as long as I live. But what I'm saying is we don't need minor upgrades year over year. What we need is substantial upgrades to justify the added cost to small business owners that rely on multimedia equipment from manufacturers like yourselves. Please stop giving us gas. Please stop re-releasing cameras with minor upgrades. And let's just focus on doing something really, really well. Even if we have to wait as consumers for 2-3 years for a new iteration of our favorite action camera to come out, it's better to wait for a few extra years and get something substantially better than what we have than it is to have these minor upgrades year over year and just bleed us dry of our extra spending money. That's enough for my rant. What do you think? Do you agree with me? Let me know down in the comments below whether you agree or disagree. Have you bought the Osmo Action 5? Do you have any experience using the Osmo Action 4? Or did you buy the GoPro Hero 13 and you have experience using the GoPro Hero 12? Let me know down in the comments below what your thoughts are on this topic and on action cameras in general. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up icon down below. Helps me out a lot and helps get this video out into the algorithm to more viewers like yourself. If you really like this video and you love drone content shot by drones, about drones, and for drone pilots, my friend, this is the channel for you. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and while you're at it, hit the bell icon too. You'll get a notification every time I post a new video. Until next time, I'm Chris the Drone Geek, and I'm out of here. See ya!
Yo, what you